This is a wheel spacer, and if you've ever put bigger wheels and tires on your pickup truck, then chances are that you may be wondering if they work for just a really cheap and easy way to get yourself a wider stance on your truck. But does more width equal more better? Today we're gonna be diving into that head first to find out, are wider wheels really worth it? Let's get it. Now, regardless if you want some spacers for your 10 wides or if you're looking to get yourself a brand new set of 14 or 16 wides, you can get both of those at customoffsets.com. Also, if winning a set of 14 wides is maybe a little bit more your style than this one, it's going to be for you. We're talking Archon wheels, Mickey Thompson tires, and a super lift kit shipped right to your door free of charge. Plus, my boy Hank over at Hanro Studios is gonna be engraving your wheels with a wicked one-of-one custom design like he does, because that's what Hank does best. And of course, on top of all that, we're donating to Hope for the Day with every tee and every hoodie that you guys purchase. You guys can check all of it out, check out the charity, check out the products, check out Hank from Hanro Studios, all at customoffsets.com/giveaway. All right. Let's talk wide, boys. When you look at a set of wheels, there's really three numbers that you're going to want to know. Number one, the first number is wheel diameter, or in other words, how big your wheel measures if you take a tape measure and lip from one side all the way across the middle, right down to the other, right? To the outside edge of the lip on that side. Well, this number is important for a few things, like what tires you need to buy, because you can't put a 22-inch tire on a 20-inch wheel, you know, and making sure that your wheels are big enough to clear that big wheelwood brake kit that you've got. It really doesn't affect the stance of your truck because it's just a height number. It doesn't have anything to do with width, right? The important numbers here are the next two. Right smack dab in the middle of when you look at those three numbers on a wheel, there's going to be the wheel width, or how wide that wheel is from inside all the way to the outside, right? And then of course, on top of that is the mysterious third number that always got me when I was a kid, and that is the offset of the wheel. Now this one is really confusing if you're shopping for your first set of wheels. The offset of a wheel is measured from the mounting pad of the wheel to the center of the wheel, right? So if the wheel mounts to the hub with that mounting pad inward to the center of the wheel, then that wheel is gonna have a negative offset, right? Because your center hub is inward from the center. That's a minus offset. Now that's gonna push the wheel further out of the truck. On the flip side, if the wheel mounts to the hub more on the left side, right, more tucked in from the center of the wheel, that's gonna suck the wheel in and give the wheel what's known as a positive offset. It's a little bit confusing. Positive offset means tucked in, negative offset means tucked out. But the good news is, for the most part, any wheel above a 10 wide is usually gonna have a negative offset of some sort, as, let's face it, we're just all about that stance here, baby. Here's why all this matters though, right? When it comes to lifting your truck, most guys are looking for something a little bit wider. I remember back in the day when a 12 wide was considered a big wheel, but these days guys are running 14 wide, 16 wides. Hell, I've even seen an 18-inch wide wheel, which is absolutely insane if you ask me, but hey, you know, do it for the gram. But typically speaking, more wide equals more money, and sometimes that's not always possible in the old pocketbook. Enter the wheel spacer. Wheel spacers work by essentially pushing the wheel away from the hub, thus widening the stance of your truck. These spacers can be bought in all sorts of different sizes, from like a ½ inch all the way up to 3 or more inches wide. However, one of the biggest things we hear from guys is that wheel spacers aren't safe, or they're dangerous, or they might come off, and well, that's technically sort of true, right? Let me explain. When it comes to wheel spacers, you get what you pay for. Cheap wheel spacers are typically made of a lighter duty material. They have much worse machining tolerances, meaning that they're gonna be sloppy when you mount them up, and probably the biggest thing to worry about is cheap spacers are not hub-centric. This means that they don't center the spacer on the hub of the vehicle, which can lead to things like vibrations going down the road, and in some extreme cases, it can actually cause that spacer to fail because of the vibration when it rattles down the road. And then that's where you get the horror stories of guys who are mobbing down the interstate, and then they shoot a wheel and tire off into the pickers, you know, because, well, that's just how it goes sometimes. And a little scary, but we'll get through it, right? I think everyone's got a story of throwing a wheel off into the distance because they bought a cheap spacer, whether it was you or your buddy. But hey, just don't do that. For this reason, we only carry high quality, made in the USA, hub-centric wheel spacers made by Bora, and of course their sister manufacturer, Stahl, right? Bora makes aluminum spacers, Stahl makes the steel spacers. Both of these spacers have been absolutely stellar on our builds, including the K350, which had 2-inch wheel spacers on 14 wides and still towed Banker's truck all the way from Appleton to Lifted Truck Nationals in Brenton, Missouri in 2019 and back, and it did so flawlessly. One of the biggest things to keep in mind though when it comes to putting a spacer on your truck as opposed to a wider wheel is that it's not going to give you that full width look that a wider wheel is going to. For example, we did a video a while back where we stacked like 8 inches of spacers on my Duramax, and sure, it pushed the tire all the way outside of the fender of the truck, right? But at the end of the day, it was still a 12 wide wheel on a 12.5 wide tire, so it left the truck looking a little bit goofy, kind of like a snowmobile, right? You had like these 2 little tires way outside of the wheels, or way outside of the hubs. It was weird. A wider wheel is gonna give you more of that full look in the wheel well, you know, so if that's the look you're going for, you're gonna wanna opt for the wider wheels here. So, let's say you want a wider wheel. What kind of options do you have, right? You've determined that 12 wides just aren't cutting it for you anymore, you wanna go to 14 wides. The good news here is that these days it's getting even easier to find wheels that fit the exact look you're going for on your build. Take Archon for example. Not only does Archon make your standard 20x12s and 22x12s, etc., but they're also gonna make some of the big boys. We're talking 2414s, 2614s, and the best part is you can even get them in chrome, right? And even better than all of that, we have them in stock ready to ship to you guys, so if you need new wheels for show season, you can get them to your door in like 7 days with quick delivery. It's pretty wild, actually. That's enough out of me though. What do you guys think? Are you running wider wheels, or is a spacer enough to do the job for what you guys want to do? Sound off down below in the comments, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. With that, I'm Dustin with Custom Offsets. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.